Good morning, everyone. Welcome all of you in mini MBA in Human Resource Management, Day 2. The topic today that we are going to take up are recruitment and selection. The second topic is training and development. As we have seen that recruitment and selection, these two are the tasks, the jobs that are assigned to the human resource department. And as we see from the figure, we see that recruitment and selection, these are two complementary processes. And what happens? When these two are combined, when these two come together, the whole staffing process completes, right? But these are two different processes by nature. That is why the artist has shown them into different colors, right? And we can understand this recruitment and selection from our shopping experience. We all go to the market, and in this slide, we see the example of, say, ready-made shirts. When you go to buy a ready-made shirt or any other ready-made garment, what happens? You go to the shopkeeper, you go to the retail counter and tell the salesperson that you want a particular shirt with this particular design and in this size. Maybe you give him more specifications and he starts picking those shirts for you and he keeps a pile of shirts in front of you. So we have seen the pile of shirts here in front of us in the slide. And now you are supposed to select the one that you are thinking of. You have certain parameters, maybe the color, maybe the specification of the cloth, maybe the design, the style, and maybe the price, right? And you check all the parameters, and if any one of these shirts fits in those parameters, you pick that shirt, right? This is how you select a shirt for yourself. And exactly in the same way, we select the candidates from the pool of candidates, from the pool of applicants that come to the organization. And that is the process of recruitment and selection. See, in this slide, when we see that the applications are coming to the organization, this is a part of recruitment. And when we see that out of these three applicants, one is highlighted, one is to be picked by the organization, that is selection, right? So I hope the process of recruitment and selection is becoming clear to my students. And in the end part of the slide, we see that all the specifications are being cross-checked with a very speculative eye, right? So can we start the theory now? If the process of recruitment and selection is becoming slightly clear to my students, let's see. When it comes to recruitment and selection, you have to define the job requirements first. That means what your company needs, what kind of job it has, and how these jobs are to be performed, and what kind of people can do these jobs. Once you have this in mind, then you will start attracting those kind of people to your organization. You will start inviting them to your organization. They will become the applicants for you. And out of these applicants, you will start selecting good people. You will start shortlisting first. And after shortlisting, maybe you will start selecting the best out of them. This is the actual staffing process, recruitment and selection. How to develop the strategy for the same? You have to think of whether to make or buy. Previous slide, please. You have to think whether to make or buy employees. That means whether to bring a fresher and develop him or train him as per the requirement of the organization, or to take a trained employee from the factor market, from the labor market. You also have to think of technological sophistication of recruitment and selection devices. What kind of tests are to be used? What kind of questions are to be asked in the interview? You can also think of geographical distribution of labor markets comprising job seekers, right? We know about these labor markets, that the people, whoever are interested in finding a job, they are job seekers. And we also need to decide what kind of sources of recruitment are we going to use. And we need to think about the sequence of the activities in the recruitment process. This all we need to understand before we start the recruitment and selection process. So let us try to understand what is this process. Recruitment, when we start analyzing the job. Analyzing the job means when I start looking at my organization, I start looking at the departments of my organization and their goals, and I start sequencing the activities. What job is to be done first? What task is to be done after this? This way I start analyzing the job. This becomes job description, what is there inside the job. And after that, writing job specifications, what kind of people can do what kind of job. For example, when it is cleaning the office, what kind of people can clean your office? And in a college, when it comes to teaching, what kind of people can teach? What kind of qualification and skill should a teacher have? And what kind of qualification and skill should a sweeper have? There is a difference between the two. This difference tells us about the job specification, that for a particular job, we need particular kind of people. This is an important step in the recruitment process. Then deciding the recruitment method. How do I recruit the people? Recruiting is how do I invite the applications of the people? How do I attract the people towards my organization? So what methods am I going to use for that? I need to decide on that also. Then deciding the application method. How are the applicants? How are the people who are interested in applying to my organization? How will they apply? Whether this is going to be online, whether this is going to be offline, is it going to be on the spot or walk-in? This is how I will have to decide on what application method is to be used by the applicants. And after that, I can start marketing the job in the labor market. That means job advertisement maybe, or telling people that I need more staff. Till here, everything is under the process of recruitment, but staffing is not going to end here. So what will happen? I receive the applications. All the applications are here in my hand, and they will be sent to the table of the person who's authorized for this recruitment and selection process, right? And now this person or the team of people, they will start shortlisting the candidates. Shortlisting means it will start from screening first. Screening means that maybe you need PhDs for this particular teacher's job. Then you will start screening those CVs only which have this qualification of the applicant. If this qualification is not there, then they will be eliminated. So what do we see? That in recruitment, we were inviting the applications. And in selection, we are eliminating the names. We are eliminating the applications. This person is not PhD, keep it aside. This is how we start in the selection process. And those who are shortlisted or screened, now we need to test those candidates. After these candidates pass all the tests, then we have to make a decision whether to take them, whether they are selected in the organization or rejected by the organization. We have to make a decision and give the offer to the candidates. Once I decide to take the candidates in my organization, can we have the previous slide, please? Thank you. Once we have these offers made, and I have the people in my, and I see that the people are ready to join my company, then I start taking up references from them. The references are going to tell me what kind of people am I going to hire now? What do other people think about him? What is the level of people with whom he or she is associated? And I invite them to accept the offer. If they accept the offer, they become the employee of my company. And then I need to induct these new employees in the company. That means to make them comfortable in the organization right from the first day, first minute. This is how recruitment and selection process works, right? Now, recruitment, we have seen that it is just about inviting the applications. So what are the sources of inviting these applications? These are two, internal and external. Internal means inside the company. I have many sources inside the company also. These can be present employees. Present employees means I start sharing with the people that I need more staff. I start sharing with the people that I need a particular kind of person for this particular job, and they start bringing their references. They start bringing their people to the organization for interview, right? So these present employees can also bring the applicants to us. Then we can have employee referrals. In many companies, these employees who refer other candidates' name to the company, they are paid for this, right? In India, the practice is not very common, but in developed countries, this is a common practice that you refer a candidate's name, and if he is taken by the company, then you get a good amount of money, right? Then these are former employees, those employees who have worked with your company, but now they have shifted to some other company maybe, or they have retired. They can also become a source of supply of your applications. Then you may have previous set of applications lying in your storeroom maybe, or lying in your database. You can use that internal source also for inviting the applications, right? And when it comes to external, you can go to professional and trade associations. For example, if you need jewelry designer for your jewelry manufacturing company, then you can go to jewelry trade association of that particular city where you are staying, right? You can use advertisements. These advertisements are going to spread this information around with the masses that you need people for your company. You can also go to employment exchanges. You can go to the schools and colleges for campus recruitment, right? You can also maybe people paste papers and they put banners outside their company's gates, walk-ins. That means if you come and drop in your CV, you will be interviewed. So these walk-ins and write-ins, these are also an important external source of inviting applications. Then we have consultants, recruitment consultants, who charge some fee and who bring the applications to the organization. Then you have displaced persons, you have media, social media, right? Through social media platforms these days, Naukri, Monster, all these things are available as external sources of applications for the organization. Then merger and acquisition. If the two companies are merging, then of course, you can hire from the other company. Competitors, your competitors are also a source of application, good applications for you, because these candidates who are coming from the competitor, they are also doing the similar or same kind of job in that competitor's organization. Then e-recruitment, temporary employee or contract employees, these are also the source of applications for the organization. Then you can also use your own company's website. And telecommunication is also going to work to invite applications, and military personnel, they also become an external source of applications for the organizations. Now, what are the advantages of this internal source and external source? Advantages: less expensive. Candidate is already oriented towards the company because you are taking him from the inside. And organizations have better knowledge about the internal candidates. And it enhances employees' morale and keeps him motivated, and good performance is rewarded. These are the advantages of internal recruitment. But it does not come without any cons, without any disadvantages. So the disadvantages I have listed on the other side of the slide, that this perpetuates the old concept of doing things. When you need people, ask people around you, they will bring their people and you will hire them. This is an old way of doing things. And this way you will be having a limited set of applications with you. And it abets trading. Candidate's current work may be affected if he is busy in giving the referrals. And politics plays greater role here in internal source of recruitment. Maybe a person who is influential in the organization, his references will be given more importance. And morale problem for those who are not promoted. If you are taking people from inside, or you are taking people from inside through promotions, then of course those who are not promoted, they are going to be left with low morale, right? And the advantages of external sources: new skills, new talents, new exposure of experiences, and compliance with reservation policy becomes easy. Scope for scope for resentment and jealousies inside the organization can be ignored because we are bringing people from outside. There are disadvantages also. Better morale and motivation associated with internal recruiting that we just saw in the previous slide, that is denied. That is not available. And it is quite expensive. And chances of creeping in false positive and false negative errors. For this, of course, we can quote an example. We all remember that a few years back, there was Anna Hazare's movement in the country, and Kiran Bedi was brought. Kiran Bedi was brought as a face of the party up, right? No one can doubt the efficiency of Kiran Bedi's working. She was the one who took away the Prime Minister's car from the roads if it is not parked properly. I mean, that capable a leader. This leader was hired from the external sources. And when she came to the party, she faced a heavy defeat, right? So such errors should not be made in the external sources of recruitment while using the external sources of recruitment. And adjustments of new employees to the organization culture takes longer time. Well, and if you take the people from the internal sources, then of course they are already used to that culture. And how to choose the labor market, which is economic, social, geographic for us. We can use local advertising. We can also use national journals and trade presses. We can use national newspaper. We can use employment newspapers. We can go to recruitment agencies. We can use employment services of the job centers. We can use our own website or vacancy boards. And we can go to speculative and unsolicited applications also, links with schools and colleges that will bring the campus placement to us, then employee referrals. All these are the sources and they become the market for us, right? Now, we can summarize the recruitment and selection process. Just 3 steps: employment planning and forecasting. You need to plan your manpower, what kind of people you need and what number of people you need. That means quantity and quality of the people that you are going to bring to the organization or you are thinking of bringing them to the organization, right? And then to invite applications for the purpose. And then those applications, you select the best out of those applications, and those best applications, 1 or 2 or the number of vacancies that you have in your company, they become your employees. So candidates become employees. These are the 3 major steps of recruitment and selection. And when they become employee, they perform some activities also. They complete application forms, then you use selection tools on them, you supervise, you interview them. And after the final interview, you make the final choice. You make the final selection of the candidate. Now, there is a difference between recruitment and selection, as we have seen from the slides previously shown. In these slides, now we are going to understand theoretically what is the difference between recruitment and selection. Recruitment is the process of finding and attracting the applications, right? While selection is shortlisting. We have already said that this is an elimination process. This is the first major difference as far as the activities are concerned. In recruitment, the activities are of inviting, and in selection, the activity is of eliminating, right? Recruitment is the beginning process, is the initial process in the staffing, while selection is the final process in the staffing, because now the candidate has become your employee and you have started the induction or orientation program. So as we were discussing the difference between recruitment and selection, recruitment says, welcome, come to me. That means applications are being invited by the organization. And selection says, bye, I don't need you. So how entirely different, entirely opposite are these 2 functions. When we are inviting applications, we are supposed to welcome them. When we are eliminating the names from those applications, we are supposed to say bye. So how with these two easy and simple terms, we can understand the difference between the nature of activities in the recruitment process and selection process. And we can easily say now that recruitment process is a positive approach, while selection process is a negative approach. Why negative? Because I don't need you. And recruitment, why positive? Yes, please come to my college, come to my office, bring your application to my organization. This is the difference between the approach of the two processes. Now, when you see this slide, you see that the process of recruitment and selection is made clear here. You have shortlisted 4 candidates. Out of these 4 candidates, we are going to select the best. At times, it is difficult for us to select the best. That is why the finger is there on the 2 heads, right? So it is difficult for us to make the selection. For this, we need to understand the process of selection. First, we need to understand what is selection. Daily Order's definition says, selection is the process by which candidates for employment are divided into 2 classes. And these 2 classes are very simple. Those who are offered employment and those who are not offered employment, who will not be offered employment for this point of time. Maybe after 3 months, after 6 months, companies have different time periods for reapplying. Some companies have 3 months, some companies have 6 months, that after 6 months you can apply again. But at this point of time, we are not going to take you. So we just categorize the applications that we have received through the recruitment process. And we can also say that selection, backside please, yeah. Selection is the process of choosing people by obtaining and assessing information about the applicants with a view to matching these with the job requirements inside the organization. And what are the features of selection? What are the characteristics of selection? It is a process of picking out the best. And it is a negative process because there are sequences of hurdles in these selection processes. Hurdles can be tests, hurdles can be interviews. And these selections begin only after an adequate number of applications have been received and secured that, yes, these are useful for my organization. This is the standard pattern that we follow in the selection. Now, what is this process actually? What will happen in the selection process? What is the interviewer, what is the selector supposed to do? What is the candidate supposed to do? First is preliminary screening interview. That can be a telephonic interview, that can be a distant interview. 3-4 years ago, it used to be Skype interview before calling the candidate to your organization for the face-to-face interview, right? It can be employment test. It can be selection interview, final interview when you will be either selected or rejected. And background investigation, if required, if you have certain doubts whether this person is coming from a criminal background or from some other background that does not go with my organization's profile, maybe you need to check his background. And some organizations or some profiles also have to check you medically, whether you have 6/6 eyesight, if you are going to apply for a pilot's job maybe, and other kinds of physical examinations are also a part of selection process. And then you make the permanent job offer. After the offer is accepted, the person becomes your candidate. And yeah, we can stick to that slide only. When it comes to tests, selection tests or employment tests, these tests have to be reliable. And when do these tests become unreliable? When the physical conditions for the test are different for the 2 candidates, or when the test taker's health is different in 2 particular test taking sessions, when the person who's administering the test is also different for you and for some other candidate. And when questions do a poor job of sampling, even then this is a problem for the tests. So how to decide on selection tests? We are supposed to check the suitability of the test, resource and cost constraints of that test, effectiveness and acceptability of those tests. And in the employment interview, we have spoken about selection tests. Now we are supposed to check what happens in the employment interview. Employment interviews are of many kinds. I have just taken a few. Structured interview, where each and every question is formed beforehand, and the sequence is also pre-decided, right? And when it comes to unstructured interview, you don't have a predefined sequence of questions, and there is no structure. Whatever comes to your mind as per the CV or as per the introduction given by the candidate, maybe you start taking an unstructured interview. Then there are stress interviews, when the stress is created on the candidate. Walk-in interviews, when you don't plan beforehand, you just go to the organization, you walk in and you appear in the interview. Telephonic interviews, when you are not available face-to-face for the organization. Maybe you are in a different city, or in Corona time, we saw these telephonic interviews. That was the era of telephonic and video interviews, right? Then group interviews, when this is not just one candidate appearing in front of the panel, when the panel is going to interview a group. Then there are depth interviews, and these interviews are generally technical by nature. Roundtable interview, when you are supposed to sit and discuss certain issues, and then you are being evaluated by the panel. And what types of questions can you ask in the interview? These can be situational questions. What kind of situation, and what will be your reaction to this particular situation? Then there can be behavioral question. What will be your behavior in those situations? How are you going to react? That is going to tell them whether you are a team worker, whether you are a single player, what kind of soft skills you have, what kind of hard skills you have. Knowledge questions, they will tell you whether you are, they will tell the employer whether you are suitable for this job or not. Background questions, they will check your background, your cultural fit with the organization, whether you will be a fit in the organization or a misfit. Then tricky questions, these can be any kind of questions. These can be used to create stress. These can also be used to make you confused, right? So these types of questions are a part of the employment interview. And what kind of common interviewing mistakes people make? When negative emphasis is given, that means negative questions are emphasized more. When the interviewer himself or herself does not know the job, or when there is a pressure to hire people. So whatever kind of people come to you, you start hiring them. And when the influence of non-verbal behavior is more, even then the interviewers are going to commit these mistakes. And when they are attracted towards a particular candidate, even then they can make a wrong choice. And when there is non-verbal implication, even then this is a mistake. So what happens if you commit certain mistakes in the interview, you hire bad people. And when you hire bad people, what is going to happen? They act as a parasite for your company, right? They don't let your organization grow. Or they can go to your competitor, or they can become your competitor at one fine point of time. If you commit mistakes during the tests, during the interviews. This is the importance of these steps in the selection process. And once we have understood this recruitment and selection process, this gives us the recruitment yield chart. We need to understand from where we started and where we ended in the recruitment and selection process. So we see that we started with a number of 240. I hope the screen is visible to all my learners. You had 240 applications, right? Where the recruitment ended and the selection process started. Out of these 240 applications, screening calls were made to 120 people. That means 120 applications were eliminated, only 120 calls were made. So the ratio is 1:2. And out of these 120, only to 30 people the assignment was given. Because after the screening call, you eliminated 90 more names. So just 25%, 1 out of 4 you have taken at this step. And when the next step of final interview comes, maybe you are taking only 1 out of 2, just 15 people are shortlisted for the interview. Then comes the second round of interview. Out of these 15, now you are taking only 5, 1 out of 3. See how you are narrowing down the process of selection quantifiably, right? And after the second round of interview, you make this job offer to only one person. So that means out of 5, only one. This is the yield of the recruitment, right? Then we have these 7 steps for hiring. These are given by Vivek Bandra. He's a business coach, and he says that when you start hiring, you should prepare, plan, and then start the process. And internal promotion or external hiring, what kind of sources are you going to use? On these, you have to decide. Then you have to focus on the cultural fit. The person whom you are taking, whether he is a fit for the company or not. You need to evaluate the potential, performance, skill, and will of the candidate. I'm going to discuss potential and performance here. There is a difference between potential and performance. Performance, a sweeper, his or her performance can be very good. When he starts sweeping, the organization's floor is like shining like anything. But does this sweeper have the potential of becoming the CEO of the company? Maybe not. Performance-wise, he is very good, but his potential is limited. So these two are entirely different terms. So when we are evaluating the candidate, we should evaluate their potential, their performance. And when it comes to skill and will, I'll take the next slide to show you how it is to be evaluated. You need to check their soft skills and hard skills. Background and reference check has to be done, and after that, induction. Now, one thing that is left is skill and will. So, can we have the next slide, please? Yes. We see that the skill from low to high, same way the will from low to high. Will is the willingness to work, and skill is capability. Yes, I can do this. These are two different things. I know the job, but I don't want to do it. Or I do not know the job, but I want to do it. These are two different kinds of mindsets of the people. Based on these mindsets, this matrix has been developed. First, when the will is low and the skill is low, I do not know, I don't want to work. Then you need to give him direct directions. Do this, do it that way. Right? And when the will is too high, I want to work, but I don't know how to do, then you need to guide him, you need to coach him. And when the will is also very high and the skill is also very high, I know it and I want to do it, then you need to assign the duties to that person, delegate the job to him. Right? And this is the dangerous one. The other quadrant that I have left, where the skill is very high, but the will is low. The person knows everything but doesn't want to work. And such people are generally not alone in your organization. They make others around them also like them. So beware of these kinds of people who have the skills but who do not have the will. So while interviewing, you should check what kind of people are you hiring, skill people or will people, right? So this is all about your recruitment and selection. And the second topic that we are going to take up is training and development. Are you ready for the same? Yes. So when it comes to training, we'll start with the simple definition given by Filippo. He says, training is the act of increasing the knowledge and skill. That means we are working on the skills and knowledge of the employee, and we are going to increase this knowledge and skill of the employee for a particular job that is assigned to him in the organization. Training is the creation of an environment. During the training process, there is some change in the environment from the actual workplace, and in this environment, you learn specific job-related behaviors, knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes. See, all these are related to my behavior in the organization as an employee. So what is happening? I am here to learn something that is related to my job first. Then this is related to my behavior in my workplace. Then my knowledge about the task that is assigned to me, whether I can complete it efficiently or not. Do I have those skills? Do I have the ability to maybe physical strength or mental strength? And do I have the positive attitude towards this task? All this can be handled with the help of training, because if these are missing, then of course the individual performance is going to be affected, and so the performance of the organization, right? And what is the purpose of training? Training is used at the time of induction. This is used to update skills of the employees. This prepares the employees for the future assignments because it focuses on the development of their competences. You can use simulations and gameplays. And in some companies, for promotion also, training is highlighted. It is required, in fact, before promotion, you need to attend a particular training course. And you also need to be trained so that your skills do not become obsolete. And training also works on increasing your productivity. It improves the quality of your work, and you meet the organization's objective more effectively and more efficiently. It also improves the climate of the organization. If you are trained, if you are well trained, in fact, then you have this enthusiasm. Yes, I know a lot. And this brings a change into the organization's climate. It also prevents accidents. For example, if you are trained to use a particular safety equipment, then it can help in preventing the accidents. Trainings also avoid boredom, monotony, and fatigue. They support personal growth and development. And what are the benefits of training to an individual? Training is going to enhance his skills and knowledge. It makes employees effective and efficient. Employees can realize their career goals very easily with the help of training. And greater awareness is there in the employees, fewer errors in their tasks, and increased productivity, as we have already seen, and morale boosting. This is happening at the level of an individual who is being trained. Now, what is happening at the level of the organization that is training this particular person? Increases the intellectual capital for the organization. These training sessions, they make the minds of the individuals richer, and these minds are the property of the organization to some extent only, but this increases the intellectual capital of the organization. Then it helps in achieving high standards of quality in terms of production, in terms of customer relationship, in terms of any business activity, right? And it reduces employee turnover and absenteeism. It minimizes waste, because we have training sessions on waste management also in the organization, and employee loyalty is increased with the help of these activities of training. And as you have already read the slide, that's why this slide was open for you people, because this slide gives us a system view of training. So what is a system view? When something is used as an input, it is processed, and something comes out as an output. See, the same thing is happening here in this model. When you assess the needs, that is your input. When you do the organizational analysis, when you do the job and task analysis, organizational analysis, you need to go for a SWOT analysis maybe. And when it comes to job and task analysis, what kind of information for the job you have to collect, that is to be collected. What kind of role the person has to play, what kind of person you need, that is the person analysis, right? So in other words, job description and job specification. That is the first part. Second box. Now, this box talks about the training design and training development. That means training program. We are going to design a particular training program. So we are going to select a few training methods. Then we are going to develop detailed content for the training program. Pilot test training can also be done. For example, if you have to train the people of the company all over India, in all the branches of India, then you can start testing this training session in a particular city, in a particular branch. And that is going to tell you whether this design is useful for the company or not, right? And at times you need to train the trainers also. The trainers also need to enhance their learning. This all is going to be covered under the design and development of the training program. Planning is done. Now the third step, the actual process. The process is divided in two steps. First step is planning, and the second step, deliver training, that is execution. So when we are delivering training, what is happening? We implement the designed program, we use training methods, we apply the trainer's expertise and skills, and we arrange the kind of environment we need, and we get started. This is how the process ends. Now the training is over. You need to evaluate the training. How do we evaluate? The first question that I need to answer is, were the objectives met? Then you need to select the criteria to determine whether the objectives were met or not. The design that I took, was that appropriate or not? And then you start the actual evaluation and interpret the results. Yes, my training was very good. If this is the result, then your work ends here as of now. And if it was not up to the mark, you go back to delivering training. Maybe at times you have to design it again. And to understand this training better, maybe we can have a video clip. May I have the video clip, IT team, please? This is a famous movie, Lagan. And we see the heroine coming in as a trainer. Let's see how she trains. We'll start from where the trainer enters the scene. Yes, you see the trainer?
Namaste.
The trainer is greeting the trainees.
ये कौन है?
अरे वाह, आप तो जल्दी सीख गए हमारी भाषा.
Language of instruction in a training program.
ये कौन है?
टीपू, बागा और गुरंत को तो आप जानते हैं. ये गोली है, ये ईसर काका और ये गौरी.
Introduction by the trainees to the trainer.
Pierre Malingi.
Mistake by the trainer.
मिलकर खुशी हुई.
Oh gosh. I'm sorry. Milka Kushi Hui.
हमका भी मिलकर खुशी हुई.
So, Buan, tell me, what do you know about the game?
काची?
मेम साहब पूछ रही है कि तुम इस खेल के बारे में क्या जानते हो?
Trainer is trying to check the knowledge of the trainees.
तीनों तरफ दुई लोग हाथ में फल्ली लेकर डंडियों के आगे खड़े होते हैं. एक ससुरा दौड़ के डंडियों के पास से गोला फेंका था और फल्ली वाला फल्ली से गोले को दे घुमा था और फिर सब जने तितर-बितर भागे लगे थे. उनमें से एक गोला लपक लेता है और जो आदमी पहले गोला फेंका था वो के पास वापस देता है, फिर दौड़ के गोला फेंका था और ये फिर फल्ली घुमा था. बस दिन भर ही चलते रहते हैं. गोला फेंक फल्ली घुमा, गोला फेंक फल्ली घुमा. क्यों भाई? हाँ.
मेम साहब, I can't translate.
No need, Ramsing. I understood most of that. He knows nothing.
Knowledge of the trainees assessed.
A cricket field looks like.
मान लो कि खेल का मैदान है.
This is what a cricket pitch
ये वो
is.
पट्टी है जिसमें खेल खेला जाता है.
There are three main aspects to cricket: batting, bowling, and fielding.
खेल के तीन खास हिस्से हैं: बल्लेबाजी, गेंदबाजी और क्षेत्र रक्षण.
बाप रे, इतनी गाड़ी भाषा तो हमारा ताऊ न समझे.
What did he say?
Say, this language even his ancestors will not understand.
Language of instruction is important in a training program.
Cricket is played by two teams, say yours and the English. Each
I think we should leave now. It's getting late.
So each and every training session ends. It has a time limit.
चलो शुरू
The
करते
session
हैं
is
लेकर
over.
प्रभु का नाम। हरिओम। पकड़ भागा। देखो सब जने गेंद को लपकने की कोशिश करो, भूखा गिरने मत दो। ये भुवन, वो गोरी मैम तो कह रही थी कि दल में 11 लोग होने चाहिए, हम तो सिर्फ 5 ही हैं।
Yes, I think the IT team is interested in showing you the whole movie. But I guess for us, this was enough. So what did we learn from this scene? Now, can we apply this scene on the system view of training? See how the training was delivered, how it was designed. And there was only one person who is designing and delivering the training. The process is that simple. And who assesses the need? Maybe the hero of the movie, Bhuvan. He assessed the need of this training. We don't know how to play this game. The trainer comes in, the trainer tries to check their knowledge. And when the trainer comes to know that the knowledge is incomplete or almost nil, then the trainer starts from the scratch. This is the responsibility and duty of a trainer, right? Then the emphasis on the language to be used in this training program. More emphasis is given on that language also. After one session, now what happens in the actual field, that also we saw. That those raw material, those raw people, those raw persons, now they are being developed as a person who can play cricket, who has some knowledge of cricket. So what does training do? What does this system of training does? It generally converts the people from raw to a developed person by enhancing their skills, their knowledge, and their learning, right? And what are the guidelines for a successful training program? We can go back to the system view. You need to go there with an intention to learn. This is what we see in the video. All the 5 students, they were there with an intention to learn. And they were trying to develop their potential. And the outcome of that particular training session, we could see in the end of the movie, when the team of these 11 cricketers, they won the match, right? So the system view of training is clear from this video clip. And active participation of the trainer as well as the trainee, that is also required. And effect of practice, we could see in the movie Lagan that they kept practicing and they kept on practicing and they ultimately won. The outcome was there. So what are the areas of training? These are, of course, enhanced. First thing, you need to identify the needs. Who needs training? These can be the individuals in the organization. These can be the groups of people in the organization, or these can be the whole organization. For example, when the computers were introduced in the corporate world, the banking industry, the whole industry went for this kind of training for their employees, right? And the selection of trainees. Now, who are the people who can train your individuals or your departments or your organization, people of your organization? This way, you need to select who's going to train. Then the establishment of training goals is to be made clear to the trainees as well as to the trainer. As we saw in the video clip, it was quite clear to both the parties, to the trainees also and to the trainer also. Then selection of appropriate training techniques and personnel. Training personnel is the trainer, and training technique, we'll discuss what kind of training methods we have. And selection of application and evaluation design. You select the trainers and trainees and you start evaluating the design of the training. Then you need to monitor when the execution starts. Your monitoring also has to be there. You need to check whether the program is being implemented properly or not. And then you need to apply the training techniques, the methods that you have designed or decided for the group training or the individual training. They have to be executed. And once the training is over, you have to evaluate what kind of training program was it, whether my people are benefited or not. So I told you that we'll discuss the training needs, how to identify training needs. See, when we see that this person needs training or this department needs training, then we start with their performance. This was a question also yesterday. How do we check the performance? What happens? We give a standard, we give an expectation from the side of the company. That is required performance of the company, of the employee, or that is expected performance of the company. And if the actual performance is equal to that required performance, then there is no gap, then maybe you don't need to train that person. But if there is a gap between these two kinds of performances, actual performance and required performance, then you need to train people. Then the need of training arises, right? We check the need of training with the help of performances. Two kinds of performances: actual from the employee, expected from the company. That becomes the required performance for the employee. Now, why do we need training and why is it important when you need promotion in your company? Maybe you'll need more training. When you don't need to make your skills obsolete, even then you need training, right? And when at times your job requires these training skills, even then you need training. And some technological changes, the way I gave you the example of use of computers in the corporate world, this technological change also brought the need of training. Then increasing competition. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes, increasing competition, change in job assignment. If you have a new project that needs a different set of skills, that you need to learn those skills. And human relations approach also. This needs training. When there are hiring misfits, even then we need to train the people in such a manner that they become a fit for the company. At times there are contract trainings. There are continuous trainings also. For example, when this business outsourcing from UK and US, the transcription task came to India. At that time, there was this contract training used. What used to happen? The accent trainers from UK and US, they used to come to India and train the people of India to speak the language English in their accent. This was a kind of contract training used. And then motivation and creativity after training. This we all experience. When we are well trained, we are confident. So benefits of training for an individual, as you can see from the list: enhancing skills and knowledge of the employee, makes employees effective and efficient, employees can realize their career goals better, and morale is boosted, right? For the organization, increases the intellectual capital, achieves high standards of quality, reduces employee turnover and absenteeism. All this we have discussed already, right? And we see that these training sessions are also used for higher productivity, better quality of work, etc. Now, training design process. How does it work for us? You need to identify goals and objectives of a training program. For example, in the video clip, the goal and objective was to make them a cricketer. And then the lady determined the training content, how to start. And before that, she checked what kind of knowledge about cricket these people have. Then she decided training methodologies. Rather than going to the field, she duplicated the situation on that floor, right? And you need to identify learning activities. Learning activities, how are the trainees going to learn? For this, of course, you are supposed to work on the language, you are supposed to work on the methods that you use, and you identify follow-up activities, how to take the feedback and write down the training design. Now, what kind of training methods do we have? These are two kinds of training methods: on the job and off the job. On the job is when you are at the actual workplace and then you are learning. Off the job, when you are not at the actual workplace, but even then you are learning. So training methods, in both kinds of methods, you have to learn. But in one situation, you are at the workplace. In one situation, you are in the other situation, you are not at the workplace. So what happens in on-the-job training? This method places the employees in an actual work situation and makes them appear to be immediately productive. Right? This we all know. And it is a learning by doing. This is a very popular method of training because this is very less expensive. No cost. You send the person to the workplace, he starts working, and you start getting the productivity also. Right? And when it comes to off-the-job training, it occurs away from the workplace. And in off-the-job training, it becomes possible for the employee to study theoretical information about his job, about his company, or maybe about his people, whatever is related to the task assigned to him. Right? And on-the-job training methods, there are many training methods which are used for on-the-job training. I have taken a few. Job instruction training. Under this method, what happens? Instructions for a particular job are already given to the candidates. After reading these instructions, after listening to these instructions, or after having a printout with them in the form of instructions from the organization, it is expected that the employee goes through these instructions and starts working. On the job training, the simplest method. Then we have vestibule training. In vestibule training, you are not at the actual workplace, but you are near the actual workplace. And the conditions similar to the actual workplace are created for the purpose of training. The trainees are trainees present in that area. They have the similar atmosphere that will be there in the actual workplace, but at the same time, they will be away from the pressure of maybe achieving a target, and they will also be away from the kind of noises that a particular workplace may have, right? So in a calm atmosphere, away from all kinds of pressure, they will be trained, and the similar situation of the actual workplace will be there for them. Then they can be trained by experienced workers. These experienced workers, they know what is to be done where, when, and how. For example, when this is an insurance application form that is to be filled by the customer, and if this is an experienced worker, what he is going to do, he will just tick 3-4 points, 3-4 spaces, and he will say, sign here. This is what is coming from the experienced worker and a fresher. And training by experienced worker is what we were discussing. These experienced workers, maybe they are not physically now working at the workplace, but they are good enough to teach you how to accomplish this, how to complete this task. Then training by your supervisors, the supervisors who are going to monitor your work, they can also be your trainers. Or on the job, maybe you are just left to see how the work is going on, and you are supposed to learn from the seeing only, from the observation only. Then there is simulation. This is again a duplicated situation, and simulations are used when it is very difficult to create the actual workspace, and or when there is a threat of loss of resources or loss of life. Even then we use simulation. Then next on the job training method is apprenticeship. These apprentice, what happens to them? They come to the organization as an employee, as a temporary employee. A project is assigned to them by their guide, and they are supposed to complete that project. And during that completion of the project, they learn a lot. And this learning is training for them. And similarly, interns, the way apprenticeship is done, in the similar manner, internship is done. But what happens? These interns, they are coming from the educational institutes. They are coming from the colleges. And this internship program is a part of their course curriculum, right? They are on the job. They are at the actual workplace. But maybe some light duties are assigned to them. And they start learning the corporate culture. They start learning the corporate behavior, the etiquettes, and the training process starts and completes. Then the last, this is interesting, just do it. Now it is up to you whether you want to see and learn. Now this is up to you whether you go to an experienced worker. Now this is up to you whether you go to the supervisor and get trained, right? You are left on your own. Just do it, but do it. This is on-the-job training method when you are at the actual workplace with the real bosses and the training starts. And the next can be off-the-job. Next is off-the-job training methods. So what kind of off-the-job training methods are there? First is lectures. Lectures. We all have seen lectures. We all have seen classrooms, haven't we? So in the classrooms, we have seen what kind of training is given to us. And regular lecture training has made us what we are today. Am I correct here? Whatever have we heard in those lectures in the classrooms, that has made us either an MBA or a graduate or maybe an engineer, right? This is the effect of lectures. And this is a very effective off-the-job training method because here only one teacher can train maybe 100 students in one go. Right now, how many students are being trained? There is only one teacher. Can I have the number from the IT team, please? How many students are being trained? 36. I see the number 36. One teacher, 36 participants in the lecture method, lecture or classroom method, right? And in conferences or seminars, what happens? Ideas are exchanged. And this way we are trained. In conferences, you have to give your innovative idea. You have to present it to the people sitting there, and they are generally experts or the people of your own caliber only. And with the help of this presentation, the discussion on the topic starts. And then everybody attending this conference, they start learning. Then there are workshops. For example, for Microsoft Excel, in a workshop, you will learn how to use this Microsoft Excel or advanced Microsoft Excel with the help of actual Microsoft Excel sheets. But that will be a workshop only. That won't be a real task that you'll be doing, right? Some assignment will be given and you'll be completing those assignments, or maybe as per the task assigned to you, you will be using that Excel sheet. So in a workshop, you learn how to use the particular Excel sheet, right? This was just an example, but the workshop can be for anything. Maybe this can be for a technical skill enhancement also, where you have to attend the workshop, maybe to develop some kind of portraits. Workshop for public speaking, where you have to go to the stage and you have to perform. So workshop can be of any nature. Then next learning method is case studies. And this can happen only in off-the-job training methods, where the theory becomes clear to the candidates. Now, cases from your own organization, cases from a similar organization or from competitors, cases from other industry. Maybe you will be studying those cases and you will be looking at the problems which arise in those cases and the solutions given by the managers. All this will be discussed. Then programmed instructions. These can be virtual instructions. These can be printed instructions, but they are already structured. And those instructions will be passed on to you, and you will be expected to study them well. And then you can start working. Then there is T-group training. This is also called sensitivity training. In this, a group of people sits together and kind of brainstorming starts. But this is not exactly brainstorming, because there is a specific purpose behind the people sitting together. And with an objective in mind, they start training, right? Then there is role play. Role play is used. There was a question on conflict management yesterday, right? How do we handle the conflict as an HR manager? Role play is a very good thing. You know what we can do? How do we train the people for resolving that conflict? You ask the people to play the role of the person whom you do not like or with whom you have a conflict. When you start playing the role of that person, then of course you start realizing what are the challenges that that particular person is facing, and that is why he is reacting this way. You find the root cause of the particular behavior that was shown by this person when you start playing the role of that person, right? So this is one technique of conflict management. This question came from Prakash Singh yesterday, right, Prakash? I gave you just one technique of conflict management with the help of this training method role play. Then there are many management games, and these management games, they also teach us how to enhance our patient skills, or maybe how to be good to others. With the help of management games, we also learn team building. So we can train the students with the help of these management games. We do not have time, otherwise I could have shown you certain videos based on those games. Maybe my IT team can share those videos with you, where the Taxila students are playing a game when the balloon is there between the two students, and they have to balance those balloons in a row of students, and they have to cover the whole campus. They can share the video with you, right? And assistant to positions. When you are working, but you are not working, your designation is not as per the actual position. Assistant manager, you have heard of this term? They are not the actual managers, but they are doing all the activities of the managers, but as an assistant. They collect all the data for the meetings. But when it comes to meeting, the actual manager goes for the meeting. But the assistant this way is trained to collect the data, to analyze the data for the meeting. And one fine day, he will be able to present this data in the meeting, right? Then films and videos. They can also show you, for example, how a machine works. For this, you can simply show a video to the trainee, and the trainee will learn how to use this particular machine. So I guess this is the time for question answer session now. And this is all about training and development, training methods. And development is when the individual starts developing after the learning, right? The training and development, these two are two different things. Different in terms, because training is a learning process, while development is a developing process. When you start learning, when you start enhancing your skills, of course, your career starts developing. So if training is leading to your learning, development is leading to your career growth, right? This is the major difference between the two. And now, thank you for such a patient listening.